You are welcome again to HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. Count 3 of the Chicago case charge sheet against R. Kelly turned out to be one of the most controversial during the recent trial in the Chicago federal court. Apart from the fact that these particular charges had already been addressed by the Chicago court back in the 2008 trial, and were being brought back against the Fifth Amendment clause of double jeopardy, which prohibits anyone from being prosecuted twice for substantially the same crime, the way the count was written in the indictment was far different from the way it was eventually interpreted by the federal judge Leinenweber during the trial. While the indictment stacked multiple points into a single count, which is legally okay, the Chicago district judge directed that the points which existed in a single count be looked at separately, as though they had been presented in separate counts. When the confused jury realized R. Kelly had not in any way coerced anybody into engaging in explicit conduct, a condition that had to be satisfied to attract a guilty verdict, one of them raised their hand and asked the judge to clarify on how they would proceed. Leinenweber, who evidently didn't remember the meaning of a count, was quick to tell the jury that for as long as one of the points within the single count is satisfied, then R. Kelly is guilty for the count. This was a serious legal error by the judge, who acted before reviewing what the law says about counts and how they are dealt with. Count 3 in the R. Kelly indictment states that in or about and between May 1999 and October 15, 1999, both dates being approximate and inclusive within the Northern District of Illinois, the defendant Robert Sylvester Kelly together with others did knowingly and intentionally employ, use, persuade, induce, entice and coerce the minor Jane Doe 2, an individual whose identity is known to the grand jury, to engage in explicit conduct for the purpose of producing one or more visual depictions of such conduct, which visual depictions were produced using materials that had been mailed, shipped and transported in interstate and foreign commerce, in violation of Title 18 of the United States Code, Sections 2251A and 2251D, effective 1998. While addressing this count, the judge made two major legal mistakes he will most likely regret after the case is reviewed during appeal. For you to better understand these mistakes, I will begin by explaining to you the definition of a count. The term count in court language refers to the basis for which a person can be held liable or guilty in the court of law. We can also call it a cause of action in a civil case or an offense in a criminal case. Also important to note is that just like an atom when referring to matter, a count is the finest level to which one can break down legal claims when charging someone in the court of law. And therefore, while a single count may contain multiple points stacked together as was done with count 3 in the R. Kelly indictment, all these elements in a single count must be satisfied in order to take court action. In other words, in order to attract a guilty verdict on a count, all the elements which included using, enticing and coercing a minor were supposed to be fully satisfied. That is the condition. Judge Leinenweber's attempt to break down a count further into different points therefore was a legal gaffe that will likely cost the prosecution the entire count during the appeal process. There is just no way to separate the conditions required for the call to action to be enforced. This is comparable to thinking that because one possesses a driver's license, even if their car is not roadworthy, they are free to hit the road and drive, risking the lives of other road users. This is not possible because the two go hand in hand. R. Kelly had to have satisfied all the stated points within the count to be determined guilty for it. Remember, it's guilt for the entire count, not one element within the count. Another huge legal mistake arose from the part that suggests the defendant was engaged in activities which affected interstate and foreign commerce, suggesting that the materials used to produce the visual depictions, just like the depictions themselves, were shipped using interstate commerce. Referring to what Section 2251A of the United States Code says, it suggests that the chargeable person, in this case the offender, is not one who simply knows that this happened, but one who knowingly mails, transports or ships using any means or facility of interstate commerce any such materials, which R. Kelly clearly didn't do. R. Kelly did not in any way engage in transportation or distribution of any such visual depictions referred to in the indictment. The actual culprits of this are the individuals who stole the tapes and transported them across state lines, claiming they wanted to keep them safe, yet leaked them to the public domain to be sold on the streets, and the likes of Jim DeRogatis, who claims the tape was mailed to them by an anonymous person they deliberately don't want to disclose. It was their actions that clearly involved or affected interstate commerce, like the indictment suggests. Remember, it is also known that Jim DeRogatis had the tape duplicated and clips reorganized at the Sun-Times offices before multiple copies leaked to the streets. This implicates not only Jim DeRogatis, but the entire Sun-Times media house for their role in affecting interstate commerce with the said visual depictions. This is likely the reason the court found it necessary to grant DeRogatis immunity to get him to give his testimony at the first trial, and also explains why he chickened out and refused to testify in the recent Chicago trial where he should have. He knows he and Lisa Van Allen are guilty of the transportation and distribution of what was originally private material, in the process affecting interstate and foreign commerce, which according to Section 2251A is against the law. Perhaps he wasn't sure to get the immunity deal for the second time, and also realized that the recent trial invited very tactical no-nonsense lawyers such as Jennifer Bonjean and Glozman, who would eventually burst his bubble. It is also known that the government through lead prosecutor Angel Krull did illegally obtain information from Jim about the case with a promise that he would not be charged for his crimes, but instead the government would frame R. Kelly for the interstate commerce DeRogatis and girlfriend Lisa Van Allen were responsible for. This should further explain why Lisa Van Allen was literally dragged to court by the prosecution even when she knew she had no real points to present, after her fake age had been busted and was hesitant to take the stand again. Now you know we are dealing with a government which blackmails its witnesses to falsely testify against a defendant. If you know what this means, this is worse than corruption. For some reason, the government ignored the confessions by one of their witnesses, Van Allen, that she had stolen the tape, which was primarily personal material, and transported it using interstate and foreign commerce across state lines. Jim DeRogatis also should have told the whole story of who actually sold the tape to him, because the anonymous mailer version sounds phony and just doesn't add up. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say. To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.